Today on V8 Extra, Greg Murphy talks. The four-time Bathurst winner speaks candidly about his injury, recovery, comeback and his future. Plus, we preview next weekend's Coates Hire Ipswich 300 from Queensland Raceway and catch up on all the latest V8 supercar news. That's all ahead on V8 Extra.
G'day everybody, welcome again to V8 Extra. Great to have your company today. Well, next weekend we go racing once again, the Coates Hire Ipswich 300 out at Queensland Raceway. Really looking forward to getting back in action and a resumption of play for our great championship season. We'll preview that a little bit later in the show, but first, Greg Murphy, one of the biggest names in the V8 supercar business, four-time Bathurst winner in the wars in 2012. Hurt at the Clipsal 500. We missed out having him down in Tassie. Subsequently got a problem again. He's most recently had surgery on his back. And this past week, I had an opportunity to sit down with Greg and have a chat about the injury, his recovery, his comeback, and most importantly, his future. Greg, thanks for joining us on V8 Extra. That incident in Adelaide must have been far bigger than we all first thought. Looked horrible, but tell us what impact that had on your back.
Yeah, it was a lot bigger. I mean, certainly at the time, I only had a split second to sort of realise how big it was going to be. And it was actually I didn't actually think it was going to, decelerate as fast as what it did. And it caught me a bit by surprise by the impact and the size of it at the time. But, we climbed out of it, a bit winded and sort of shaking your head. Your brain rattles around a little bit inside the helmet. And walked away and didn't really think much more of it other than seeing a smouldering wreck on the side of the track and realising I wasn't going to race that afternoon. But subsequently, a couple of weeks later after the Grand Prix, I started to get a tingling up and down my leg, which I'd sort of recognised as something to do with my back. And then, short story, MRI, bang, straight into hospital again. And unfortunately, that at the time.
And you've had aggravation with this in the past, haven't you? So this is not a new problem.
Yeah, it began a long time ago. Actually, injured it riding a watercraft some time ago, not bending my knees, and subsequently had to manage that for quite a long time. But it finally came to a point where I couldn't do anything more with it. In 2010, I ended up having an operation then, which fixed the problem and had been very good up until Adelaide. I hadn't had any dramas and was fitter than I'd ever been, leading into the season this year. So. It caught me by surprise, the whole Adelaide thing, and just, brought back an issue that I didn't think I was going to have again.
So in engineering terms, what have they done to you?
So we've had a fusion done, basically. The L5-S1 vertebrae, the disc in there was degenerated, beyond, this time beyond repair or being able to facilitate any other sort of fix to it. And so it's actually been removed. The surgeon has fused the two bottom vertebrae together with a little piece of metal and screwed into those two vertebrae and effectively taken out that problem altogether. So the recovery is the issue. Bone's got to heal. The bone has been, obviously intruded upon quite badly and needs time, and it's the 3 months that I'm enduring at the moment is that period of getting the bone back to an 80% sort of strength position before I can go off and do anything else.
Daily pain, and how about just the general recovery process? How's that going?
It's actually no pain whatsoever. I mean, it's I was off the painkillers very early on in the piece, and the progression and the recovery has been, I think, ahead of where it was expected. The surgeon keeps reminding me to make sure I don't get too carried away with it, wearing a bit of a brace around there to support it and just stop me from, getting carried away and thinking I'm Superman when I'm not. So it's just one of those things, but it's getting better and better by the week at the moment. 2 weeks ago compared to where I am now is substantially different, and I'm expecting in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, the recovery of it, and we'll get to a point where I'm feeling normal again.
So I know there's a lot of ifs and buts attached to this question, but assuming that all goes well with your recovery and you can get back with the exercise, is it the Sandown 500 that you're targeting as a comeback drive? Yeah,
so Sandown for V8 supercars, potentially maybe an event in New Zealand before that, but November, sort of covers off the 3 months sort of bracket. So without doubt, Sandown for me is where I'm wanting to get back behind the wheel of the Pepsi Max car and take back my seat.
Greg Murphy there, and when we come back after the break, we'll have a little bit more from Greg, including the timetable of his comeback. Stay with us. This is V8 Extra. This notion that some people have of you washing off your ability on some days and then it miraculously comes back on others.
It annoys the crap out of me. There's this thing that floats around you that just comes and takes your skills away just on a whim, and you've forgotten how to drive it.
Ambrose has had a massive shunt, so Greg Murphy's involved. More cars, the track is jammed, the track is jammed.
And watch this, look at these guys.
It's on.
Look at this, they are two heated men. They are two heated competitors.
That fiery stoush with Marcus Ambrose at Bathurst a couple of years ago. Greg is certainly passionate, fiery, gets stuck into it, wears his heart on his sleeve, but he's a great racer. We'll come back to Greg in just a moment. Don't forget, next weekend, Queensland Raceway, Coates High, Ipswich 300, a preview of that a little later in the show. All right, back now to the Murphy interview, and I spoke to Greg in this past week about his comeback trail, the timeline for his recovery, and whether he thinks he can do the job. Because you're turning 40 in August and you've had such a long and successful professional V8 supercar and professional motor racing career, do you think with the ability now to muse on what you've done retrospectively that you've lost any of the skill set, or in fact have you grown the skill set? And this notion that some people have of you washing off your ability on some days and then it miraculously comes back on others. I'm interested to expand on this, because clearly you don't go to Bathurst and get a pole position and stand on the podium because you're talentless. So what happens is, over time, is it, as you said a moment ago, in and out of the wrong doors, or does the ability come and go, or does the machinery come and go? I'm interested in your take on this.
It's good that you brought it up, and it's a great question, because it annoys the crap out of me that you know, there's this thing that floats around you that just comes and takes your skills away just on a whim, and you've forgotten how to drive. I mean, the amount of times I've heard comments, and I'm not one for social media, thank God, because I would probably go mental with the the ill-informed and those that think they deserve to make comment, who actually have got no idea what they're talking about. I mean, there's nothing more annoying than that, and that happens a lot. So, it's such a tough game, and those that are successful and those that go through periods of dominance, there's one thing that is consistent with it all, and that is consistency. It's being with the same people, with the same team, with the same engineer, with things that contribute to being able to put together on any given day, the best possible performance overall. And that's, having confidence in the team that you're working with, confidence in the car you're driving. Confidence is the most incredible tool, and I think the most important tool in any sport or anything that you do on being able to produce the best results consistently. All of a sudden, one of those things will be taken away or change, and you lose it again. And that's what happens in this sport. I mean, it's so critical every single time you go near these race cars at a race meeting. So critical that all the things are working together. If they're not all working together, you're not going to win a race. You're not going to be at the front. You're not going to be able to do the job. And being that we're sports people that rely on all those other things, a mechanical piece of equipment, you're not in charge all the time.
So you don't feel diminished as an athlete in any way, shape or form at the moment today versus, say, for example, the Kmart era? Is Greg Murphy today as rounded,
Yep.
as fast, as aggressive, as determined?
The difference then is, I knew what I had. We had consistency in what we had, our equipment, our team, the management of it, the way it was run. It just flowed. Now, a few years, make a few decisions, go to some places, things happen. There's no question you lose a bit of confidence, because you're not in that encompassed sort of sphere of just everything working the way you want it to work. You're constantly trying to pull those things back together. So the difference is, I don't feel that I've lost any ability, but I certainly have not managed to continue at the rate that some have. And if you want to use Jamie Whincup as an example, I mean, his consistency with 888 and his consistency with Mark Dutton, and that ability that working relationship they've got, and the resource they have to make sure that they're always working to maintain or improve or increase their skills or their knowledge or whatever it is. there's periods for me over the last few years I haven't had all those things to be able to continue to understand and learn maybe new things, new techniques, all that kind of stuff. So you can't do that by yourself.
Some candid answers there from Greg Murphy. We'll take a break now on V8 Extra. When we come back, the question that gets asked, does Murph have a V8 racing future? Stay with us.
I've been Holden all the way through. I've not ever stepped away from, being loyal to that brand.
Could you do that? I mean, because you've been a Holden guy and you're a pin-up Holden guy in New Zealand, which is a vital market for you, clearly, and for all of us in the V8 supercar business, could you contemplate a brand change? Would you contemplate a brand change?
I have to contemplate it because, that might be the only option.
He has released the shackles on car 51. Murphy, a blistering lap.
Holy smokes! 6.68. That's
Record breaker.
That is an outstanding bit of driving. Look at them. They've come out of the bunkers to applaud extraordinary work. Look at that. You will never see that at any other time in Australian motorsport.
Doesn't matter how many times I see that lap, it still raises the hair on the back of your neck. An amazing moment in Greg's career and in the history of V8 supercar competition back in 2003. Our special focus today on V8 Extra, a candid chat with Greg Murphy. We'll preview Queensland Raceway coming up next weekend in just a tick. But let's get back to Murph and the big question that many people are asking, what comes next in 2013?
So here we sit today, midwinter's day, July, Hilton in Melbourne. You've been away from the car for several race meetings. Team's going to change its equipment in 2013, and I kind of know this feeling, but you're now standing there looking again at a bit of a cliff edge with all this, aren't you, at the moment? So, what does the future hold? You've clearly got to try and bank some eye-popping performances between now and the end of the year, and then go back into wheeling and dealing to see what next year and beyond can bring? Or is it time for a direction change for Greg Murphy?
Yeah, listen, I would hope that people can see that there's a big transition coming up between 2012 and 2013 with Car of the Future and all this stuff, and certainly there's a lot of teams under a lot of pressure because of the requirement to facilitate that restructure for next year, and also run what they're doing for 2012. I mean, it's very difficult in a lot of cases to go tipping money into 2012 into these current cars when they're all going to be obsolete within 5 months. And so I think we're battling through that at Kelly Racing, and it's a tough one for them. They've got such a massive program to try and put together, and where that leaves me moving forward, regardless of how the rest of the year finishes off, is going to be interesting. I mean, I've been Holden all the way through. I've not ever stepped away from, being loyal to that brand.
Could you do that? I mean, because you've been a Holden guy and you're a pin-up Holden guy in New Zealand, which is a vital market for you, clearly, and for all of us in the V8 supercar business, could you contemplate a brand change? Would you contemplate a brand change?
I have to contemplate it because that might be the only option. I mean, I want to stay racing in this championship.
Which was my next question. Yeah. So, does the flame still burn inside Greg Murphy's tum to go, I want to be there, I want to win races? I'm just looking at the stats, 13 pole positions, 37 podiums, great big pile of wins, all those Bathursts, and you're one of the most experienced guys. So, and you're very often an angry, becoming a middle-aged man now, like the rest of us, but there's a lot of competition and a lot of fierce competition inside you, isn't there? So you want to stay?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just what it's all about. I mean, I know, given the right opportunity, that I can do the right thing for the sponsors, for the team, for everybody, for the manufacturer, whoever it is. But, I mean, you just have to look at the statistics over the last little while of what's going on in our championship right now. I mean, it's not, the wins aren't spread amongst too many drivers or too many teams. No. And that's because of the operations that are winning it all are very, very good at what they do, and the resources, all that kind of stuff. So that's not an excuse, but that's what's needed. And so, the change for next year I find very exciting, because I think it should, mean that there's opportunities for other teams to be able to start from a bit of a new beginning. With a bit better level playing field than what we got, and that opens it up for the drivers to be able to perform a bit better.
Plus, you're Mr. Pukekohe.
Yeah.
4 victories over there, and the series has just announced that we're going back. Revamp Pukekohe, Auckland City Council are in. We all love the circuit. It's going to be tweaked and modernised, and this might see you back there and jumping around on bonnets or roofs or whatever it was that you're doing in the darkness there a few years ago.
You know, it was a few years ago, and it's a lot longer ago than actually what it feels. I mean, it's still some of the stuff when you try to think back, it doesn't feel like 6, 7. What is it? In 2007 we were there last time, and it was a couple of years before that was the last time I had any real success there. So it's phenomenal to think that it's going to be up to 8 years since I had any success at Pukekohe. It's ridiculous. So that would be spectacular to go back to there, and that's exciting. I mean, there's no question about it. I want that chance, and I can be judged. People judge people all the time, and I've been judged for all sorts of reasons. And as I said, put in certain positions because he's lost it, he's got too old, all that kind of. That's just the biggest load of rubbish that I've ever heard, and that's a cop out. That's just an easy way to not have to try and give a proper answer. It's as simple as that. And I know what's capable. I know what it can do, but it's a tough game, and people have to understand. And it's, as I say, the facts are there as to show how hard it is.
Greg Murphy there, and it was a pleasure to catch up with Greg. Really enjoyed the chat, and I hope that you found it entertaining. And he's hoping Greg recovers and gets back out on track pretty quickly. A break again now on V8 Extra. When we come back, we'll preview the Coates Hire Ipswich 300. Stay with us. Welcome back to V8 Extra. Well, we're back in action again next weekend with V8 Supercar competition out at Queensland Raceway. Coates Hire Ipswich 300. Last year we had a ripper event, 3 races. It was a big weekend for Craig Lowndes and some inspirational performances from Tim Slade and James Moffat.
It's a different ball game today in the V8s, and we're underway. It's going to be tight. They want to push and shove up on 2 wheels. He's fought back into the picture here today. Slade's going to slot into second only just. So that was a big whack.
Oh, and then look at the damage there. What a great shot.
And Lounsey was here to play.
Jamie Whincup had a problem getting this car away.
He's in. It's a bad miss.
Is this the weekend that Lowndes' charge towards another title begins?
Lee Holdsworth's rotated at turn 1.
And here's Whincup out of the pits.
Black flag for speeding in pit lane for Jamie Whincup.
There is a black cover, a black piece of material with Vodafone on it, which is sucked into the top of the trumpets.
Well done, James Moffat. Nice, clean pass.
Just slicing through these guys now.
James Courtney and Russell Egan were just saying about the mates.
80 career race wins for Craig Lowndes.
I'll bet Team Vodafone don't forget that manifold cover for 2012. That was the highlights of 2011. All right, let's have a look at our championship scenario, and you can see it's 100 points in favour of Jamie Whincup at the moment from Mark Winterbottom. Will Davison still in 3rd place. Craig Lowndes in 4th. 2 wins away now, 298 points away from the championship lead. 3 of the SBR cars in there, and Davey Reynolds has snuck inside the top 10. OK, let's have a look at all the facts, figures and details related to next weekend. Aaron Noonan's put together Noon's Fast Facts with the propeller spinning. Here's all the numbers.
Beat Craig Lowndes at Queensland Raceway and chances are you'll win. He's won more races at Ipswich than anyone else, and by a long shot, and clean swept last year's event. When it comes to outright pace, Tander, Whincup and Lowndes are all tied up in the chase for pole positions, with Bright, Courtney and Frosty on a single digit. Congratulations to Tim Slade and Dean Fiore. Both rack up 50 event starts next weekend. And light the candles please for Timmy. He turns 27 next Friday. And remember, Queensland Raceway delivered his first career podium last year after a stunning drive. Queensland Raceway's home ground test turf for 11 local drivers in a field of 28. However, the track works could neutralise any local knowledge benefit. Regardless, Victorian teams hold sway, with 16 race wins to 13 in enemy territory. And well done Shane van Gisbergen. The young Kiwi racks up his 150th race start next Saturday. 3 QR podiums in the last 2 years means SVG is a man to watch.
Noon's Fast Facts there. Hope you learned something. Now, before we bolt on V8 Extra, let's zoom across to the newsroom. Matty White standing by. Hey, Matty, it's nice to have you back working with us once again, mate.
It's always good to see you, Crompo. We've all been busy lately, especially the teams signing up co-drivers for the Gold Coast Armour All 600. IndyCar racers Justin Wilson and Graham Rahal, as well as former F1 pilot Frank Montagny, will join Kelly Racing. Stone Brothers have signed Aussie David Brabham, Frenchman Simon Pagenaud and Dutchman Jeroen Bleekemolen, while FPR have locked down Mika Salo to return with Will Davison. Got some great news for the Sandown 500. Dick Smith has signed up as the naming rights backer for the return of the Enduro in Melbourne in September. And Jacques Villeneuve wants more. He'll be driving for the Pepsi Max crew at Ipswich next weekend and at Sydney Motorsport Park later next month. And that is Big Pond Sport News Extra.
Thanks, Matty. Appreciate that. Look forward to catching up with you next weekend together with the rest of the gang. Next weekend is our Coates Hire Ipswich 300 Queensland Raceway. Races 16 and 17 of the championship and a resumption of play in that intense battle we've got between Team Vodafone and Ford Performance Racing. Our next V8 Extra will wrap it all up after QR. The following weekend we'll be at Dreamworld, the home of the V8 Redline experience. Hope to have your company then. Thanks for being with us today. Bye for now.